Well, welcome to our May virtual breakfast and in-person breakfast. My name is Dave Strickland. I'm the president of NAIOP Southern Nevada. This morning's a little bit different. We have a virtual component, and then we also gave the option for people to be in person at the Orleans. And so there's about 100 people there and a bunch of people that are online now. So we hope you enjoy your time at the Orleans and enjoy some breakfast for me, would you? Chaim, give us a pan of the room. Great, man. Thank you so much. Next month's meeting will be an in-person panel at the Orleans, and we look forward to that. Earlier this month, we had the opportunity to receive an award from the Communities in Schools as a, there we go. All right, good, thank you. So we had the opportunity of being honored the Community Volunteer Group of the Year. Now, obviously, I cannot take any credit for that. Patty Dillon, Chris Teachman, Jay Heller, and the Community Service Committee have definitely done a great job in helping out the community, and we appreciate all of you NAIOP members that have helped contribute to the various causes that NAIOP has been supporting over the year. So thank you very much. We'd also like to thank John and Carrie, Carrie Kramer, John Lelu with Argentum Partners. They are up at the state legislature right now. They're watching everything on our behalf, as well as providing us video updates for all of our membership. So we certainly appreciate that. At this time, we would like to thank our President's Circle sponsors who are so instrumental to the success of NAIOP's chapter. Thank you to our platinum sponsor, Cox Business. They've been a supporter of ours for over 17 years. We also want to thank our gold sponsors, DC Building Group, Kimberly Horn and Associates, Majestic Realty Company, Panatone Development Company, Prologis, Southern Nevada Water Authority, the Howard Hughes Corporation, and Thomas and Mack Development Group. We would also like to recognize and thank each of the remaining levels of our President's Circle sponsors. So our silver sponsors, you know, these people that contribute, and the bronze sponsor, they contribute, it helps our government affairs effort, and it really helps the chapter run each year. So we certainly appreciate that. And our copper sponsors. So we thank all of our President's Circle sponsors for all of your help and your support for the chapter through the years. We'd like to also thank our 2021 breakfast meeting sponsors, Affordable Concepts, Carpenter Sellers Delgado Architects, Compass Development, Cox Business, Dermody Properties, Helix Electric, KNIT, Martin Harris Construction, NV Energy, SR Construction. And a special thanks to today's meeting sponsor, Cox Business. They've been a valuable supporter of our chapter since 2004. And at this time, I'd like to introduce Terry Resch. Terry is the Senior Account Executive for Cox Business. She has a passion for business and helping Southern Nevada grow through the power of technology. Welcome to the program, Terry.
Thank you, David. And thank you, NAIOP, for allowing us to sponsor. You know, I think back this morning, it was almost a year ago today, we were the first virtual breakfast sponsor. And I'm so happy to be a part of the people who are at the Orleans this morning. Thank you for coming out, and thanks for everyone who's behind their computer as well. So Cox is proud to have this opportunity to share some new advancements in our technology. We're not just a phone, cable, and internet company, and we're all getting out of a pretty rough year. But Cox Business has continued to evolve and transform how business is done today. Our cloud solutions have helped so many businesses stay connected via Microsoft 365. How many Teams meetings did people do this year and still doing? Applications that give a whole new meaning to the word mobile. So we can help any business, your business, benefit from cloud applications that we offer. Whether you have 1 to 2 employees or you have multiple locations, Cox Business helps companies of all sizes stay connected. And best of all, we're right here in the community. So I want to have some fun with you this morning. I know I only got my 2 minutes, but I asked NAIOP to send me over a list of everyone's name that was registered for the meeting today. So guys, I have never seen such a cluttered wheel of prizes, but we want to give some lucky NAIOP recipient today a $50 Amazon gift card just for being on the meeting. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to spin this massive wheel of prizes. And let's see who our lucky winner is. Here it comes. And don't worry, we'll hook up with you an email. Here it comes. I don't know if you can see it. You get the first look. It is Sally Dobler. Sally, I will work with NAIOP to get your email, and we are going to send you a $50 gift card. So with that, guys, thank you so much. Have a great breakfast, and I will turn it back over to you, David.
Hey, thanks, Terry. And thank you so much for your involvement in the various committees that you're involved with. And thanks again, Cox Business, for being our sponsor. So we have some new members that we would like to welcome that are here on the screen. Their names are on the screen, and they've joined us within the last month. So if you see any of these folks that you know, feel free to reach out to them and welcome them to NAIOP. And if you're not a NAIOP member, I hope you'll consider joining. We have over 500 members, and we provide opportunities for networking and connecting with each other through committee meetings and social events, roundtables, and we always hope to provide relevant and timely information through our breakfast and education programs. So feel free to join and reach out to Jana or Katrina at our NAIOP office. And now I'll turn the time back over to Terry with Cox Business. She was just on, just gave a $50 Amazon gift card to Sally. Fantastic. Go ahead and give us the announcements, Terry.
It's Terry Times 2 this morning. Our Community Service Committee is holding a food and donation drive for street teens through the end of this month. So check out our Target and Amazon wish list and donate today. Save the date. It's our 29th annual golf tournament on Friday, October 8th at Spanish Trail Country Club. So watch for sponsorship opportunities to be announced in June. Our 2021 bus tour will be in person. We have to save the date. Thursday, November 4th, Red Rock Casino Resort. Project submissions are due June 28th. So watch for the email blast with sponsorship opportunities today. Our government affairs team is hard at work in Carson City on behalf of our members. So be sure to look at the government affairs update emails that are sent out to our members. And members, we encourage you to get involved. Join a committee. You can check out the website for committee details or just contact Jana at the NAIOP office and she'll be sure to help you. Be sure to join our members only Facebook group page and see what everyone is up to. Guys, I have a new hashtag for you. It's called NAIOP Summer. So there's our leader on the beach. His missus is happy. She's sitting in the chair. So here's what we want you to do. It's so easy. Just show us what you're doing, whether it's a vacation or you're having a barbecue with people, or maybe you're going out with another NAIOP person to lunch. We want to see that. So show us how you NAIOP this summer. Go to the members only page, hashtag NAIOP Summer, and we can't wait to see you and what you're doing around the valley and the country. So with that, I will turn my time back over to you, David.
I just want to draw attention. Did you see the vertical jump on that guy, or the vertical leap? That was amazing. The khakis, everything. Hey, we look forward to seeing what you guys are all doing this summer. Thank you again, Terry, for putting that together. So let's get on with today's program. Just a reminder to use the Q&A function to ask questions. I'd like to introduce our moderator, Dan Tuntland. with DJT Real Estate. Dan has held a Nevada real estate license since 1994. He would just tell you he just sells dirt. He started his company in 2007. He's focused in land, investments, development, and brokerage, and developed the Spotlight Award winning Boot Barn on Las Vegas Boulevard in Warm Springs. Nice work, Dan. He's on the UNLV Board of Trustees, serves on the Real Estate Committee, and is also a member of the Council of Advisors of the Leeds Center for Real Estate at UNLV. Dan, welcome.
Thank you, Dave Strickland.
You're welcome.
My name is Dan Tuntland, as he said, and I'm honored to be representing NAIOP and asking these two gentlemen questions. I want to thank Cox. Without sponsors, we wouldn't be here. And I want to thank the Orleans Hotel and everyone's there. Please give yourself a round of applause for getting out. I believe next month we're all going to be live. Marc Badain. Marc enters his 30th year with the Raiders and 7th as team president. He was named to the current post by Mark Davis in 2015. This is my favorite point. Oversees the entirety of the club's business operations. A native of Rochester, Marc Badain earned his bachelor's degree in economics from Emory University and received his MBA from the University of California, Walter Haas School of Business. And I also want to thank Marc for speaking virtually for the NAIOP annual convention, which unfortunately was held virtually last year that we were hosting here in Las Vegas. Next is Steve Hill. Steve, his bio is so good it only starts with his current position. He's the chief executive of the Las Vegas Convention and Visitors Authority. It's a destination marketing organization that promotes and attracts tourism, conventions and meetings, which we'll talk about, special events to Las Vegas and throughout Southern Nevada. Under Steve's leadership, they recently completed the construction of the $1 billion convention center. And he's also the chair of the Las Vegas Stadium Authority. Steve knows a thing or two about development. A lifetime ago, he was in the concrete business. I would like to introduce those two gentlemen. I've watched both of you gentlemen from your seats at the Las Vegas Stadium Board meeting, and rarely have I seen two people that have such a large capacity to both understand and to explain so many complex issues. And rather than me telling everyone how great you two are, which is Moderating 101, I'm going to ask you two to tell us about each other, how you met, and how your relationship of trust was built.
Well, now we'll probably just defer to one another, right, Steve? I think I'll jump in, and then Steve will fill in where I might have missed. Our relationship really started about 5 years ago. Steve was also the chair of something called the Southern Nevada Tourism Infrastructure Committee, which was tasked with trying to diversify Nevada's economy. And he started working on a number of large projects, and that's where we met. And I remember coming here for that first meeting. We had been talking about the possibility of Las Vegas for maybe 3 months at that point. But that event was something out of a reality show. So we were over, I believe, at UNLV, and every media outlet was in town. Tommy White had the laborers out doing a tailgate. There were Raider fans in attendance. There were representatives from every major resort property. It just seemed like a lot of people were at that meeting, and I don't think the previous meetings had garnered that much attention. And we walked in, and we had David Beckham with us, among other people, representatives of the Sands, representatives of Majestic, and the event was really chaotic. And in walks Steve, and in walks this calm, and in walks, like you said, someone who can take a pretty massive, complex set of details and digest it and explain it to the attended masses. And everybody just takes a deep breath. All right, here's what we're here to discuss. Here's what we're here to decide. And we left that meeting, we're like, this guy knows what he's doing. And that relationship developed over the next couple of years. Obviously, Steve moved on from the Syntic Committee to heading the Stadium Authority Board. And you asked where some of that trust came, and a lot of it came from disputes. And we're all in business, and we all have good meetings and tough meetings. And some of the best conversations Steve and I had were confrontational, but they weren't confrontational in a negative way. They were confrontational with the ultimate goal in mind. And when you're dealing with someone who has to protect interests that might run counter to you, but you walk away from that table with the respect and admiration for how he handled it, that trust is built pretty quickly. So I can't thank him enough. The line I use is that if there was a Mount Rushmore of people who are responsible for Allegiant Stadium and for bringing us here, Steve's on it, and he'll have our admiration in perpetuity for that.
Well, that's very nice, Mark. And I would mirror what you said. I was going to say that our trust was built through confrontation on issues, but nothing that became personal. It was, I think we probably both walked into that first meeting thinking, uh-oh, what are we in for here? The NFL generally has a reputation of being pretty tough and pretty forceful in how it goes about its business. And what I found both with the Raiders and frankly with the NFL is they know what they want, and they will tell you what they need in order to move forward. But they're transparent about it, they're honest about it, they're open about it. And you just need to figure out if that is a relationship that's going to work moving forward. What Mark probably thought was, uh-oh, here's some bureaucrat, and the experience that a lot of stadiums have had with their stadium authority across the country has not been great. I think what you find with the Raiders and what you find with Las Vegas and frankly the state of Nevada generally is a real desire to try and responsibly figure out a way to say yes, to develop a relationship that, using a cliche is a win-win, but that actually works for both the party that's interested in Las Vegas and works for the city and the citizens themselves. And both Marc Badain and Mark Davis had that in mind. It was actually became evident pretty quickly, and they're an easy twosome to develop trust with because everybody who knows them knows they just are open, honest, consistent, and actually care about more than themselves. So it developed into, I think, a great situation for the community. I think it's a great situation for the Raiders, and it's been easy over the last few years. I'll just add, Mark, I was at the draft in Cleveland. Mark sent me a text while I was there that said, happy anniversary. We met for the first time 5 years ago at that Tourism Infrastructure Committee meeting. And I think it's remarkable how far we have come this quickly. I don't think there's ever been a stadium built and up and running in the time frame that this one was, and that's a credit to everybody involved. And it's going to be a key component of the recovery of Las Vegas, and a lot of credit goes to both Mark and Mark for allowing this to happen and doing what they needed to do to make it happen.
Great answer, guys. Steve, for a point of reference, when did the Stadium Authority officially start?
The Stadium Authority was created out of the 2016 legislative session that happened in October of 2016. So when that law was passed, the Stadium Authority was officially launched. And then there was an appointment process to actually put people on that board.
Gotcha. So to get on the same page for everyone, Steve, could you give us some definitions just of the simple ones? Conventions versus meetings versus leisure. I'm assuming the Raiders are under leisure. And then air travel, hopefully Allegiant air travel, between leisure, business, does it mirror conventions? And where does international air travel stand for Las Vegas?
Sure. There's people use different definitions for the difference between meetings, conventions, trade shows. But conventions are typically larger than meetings, and trade shows have the component of exhibitions, exhibitors, booths, that kind of thing. To use a cliche, I don't care what you call me as long as you call me for dinner. I don't care what you call those shows as long as they're bringing people to Las Vegas. We're really thrilled to have them. And I don't think the importance of meetings and conventions to Las Vegas has ever really been lost on the community. But when you go through 15 months and you don't have any, and you see what the effect of that is on the industry itself, on the jobs that it creates, the tax revenue that it generates in order for government to provide services for the entire state, it really points out how important it is. You can see that in room occupancy now. Leisure travel is almost fully recovered. We are nearing capacity on weekends now, which is, we've been running 88, 9% occupancy generally prior to the pandemic. It was 94% occupancy on the weekends. We're back up into the 80s. But during the week, we're still in the 45, 50% range. And that difference is the attendees for meetings and conventions.
International air travel?
Yeah, that's going to be what recovers last.
Gotcha.
Right now we have basically none. There's a conversation going on. We got good news this morning when the European Union said that they will start to allow people to come into the EU if they are vaccinated. I think that will be reciprocated, where they're going to allow people to leave the EU if they're vaccinated, go other places and return without having to go through 2 weeks of quarantine, those types of really detriments for international travel. But you have to have enough demand to get flights back up and running. The airlines are certainly ready, but that demand has to be both allowed and created.
What did the great unmasking of 2021 do for both of your organizations and Las Vegas? Mark, you go first.
Okay. Well, I'll start with just the impact on our football team. The NFL protocols were obviously put in place for the protection of the players and all the staff, and then ultimately the fans when most stadiums had no fans. So the relaxation in the last few weeks has allowed the team to actually get together and practice. And the impact on that will be seen, I think, mostly in the younger players. So there's a lot of debate back and forth in terms of how much off-season work teams need, and it's something that gets handled between the NFLPA and the NFL. But if you look at the development of your younger players, they really need to get in here and understand the playbook and get on the field and get to know their teammates and work with the coaches. And none of that really existed last year. So that's certainly exciting. In this building where I'm located, there's a practice going on right now. In terms of the stadium, we're going to hopefully be able to start having events. And I know we're going to talk about it a little bit later on the call, but within the last couple of weeks, the number of events that both reconfirmed that they're coming in the next few months, and then some new events that expressed interest in jumping in pretty quickly and negotiating contracts that would normally take a much longer period of time in order to get the building booked and then to start selling tickets to those events ramped up really, really quickly.
Mark, why don't you just finish with that then? It's perfect timing. Just talk about what's in your pipeline. We all know about the 9 home games. We know about UNLV football. I know about a Faith Lutheran graduation my friend's going to Friday. I'm sure that was in your pro forma. But just go on about what's your pipeline because of the unmasking and just because of the pandemic and all that coming back.
Sure. There's certainly some events that I'm allowed to disclose, and then
breaking news, Mark. Breaking news.
Right, breaking news. It's 10 home games. Don't dismiss the preseason. So we'll start, our first game will be August, probably 13th, 14th, that weekend. We're still negotiating that with the Seahawks. That'll be our first ever game with fans. But we have the Garth Brooks concert on July 10th. We have some other events that may take place the week prior. We've already announced our preseason game, UNLV's schedule. There's a CONCACAF Gold Cup event that's coming August 1st. There's 4 or 5 other events, some of which I got to wait until the ink is dry. But right now, if you were to look at the board behind me, there's 11 events in the first 11 weeks starting in July. So the impact and what we talked about when we were building this and the public-private partnership, it's going to get off to a real fast start. In terms of other events that we've already announced, and Steve and I work closely on a lot of these, the Pac-12 championships coming here in early December, the Las Vegas Bowl, which has become an elevated, I believe ESPN calls it a tier 2 bowl now, will move later in the calendar towards the week of New Year's and will now be a matchup between a higher ranking Pac-12 team and an alternation between the SEC and the Big Ten. So a pretty impressive matchup. And then a lot of business that was looking to do 2021 concerts or 2021 events and are all rebooking for 2022. So I think you'll start to see the calendar fill up very quickly for Allegiant Stadium.
Steve, follow up with the World of Concrete. Why did they have the guts to go first, I guess, is one question. And then just the same pipeline question.
Yeah, sure. Well, the elimination of all the protocols doesn't necessarily change our schedule, but it sure solidifies it. Because having to go through an approval process, which you do for any large event prior to those protocols being lifted, made those events uncertain. And certainly World of Concrete was not. World of Concrete is, and the big trade shows in town are typically either owned by an association. So CES is owned by the Consumer Technology Association, the National Home Builders owns the Home Builders Show, that type of thing. And those shows pay for those associations almost fully. And then there are professional trade show organizers, a number of them, and our biggest customers are big publicly traded companies, and that's what their company is based on. So those types of organization have significant motivation to get back up and running. Informa owns the World of Concrete show, and they are the largest trade show organizer in the world. They're publicly traded, and they needed to show that their industry could get back up and running. They are a huge Las Vegas customer. They have about a dozen major shows in Las Vegas. They know us, we know them. They know that we can pull this off. So they made the commitment with us 3 or 4 months ago that this show was going to go on. Now, World of Concrete is typically in our building in January, so it will be back again in January, getting on its regular schedule. But this is a great opportunity. It will be the first citywide trade show in the United States to reopen since the pandemic happened. Really, the shutdown was based on health considerations, not really what the protocols were in each individual state. We've got competitive states that have been open for business, but trade shows of this magnitude just weren't willing to move forward while we had such a significant health problem. So that's great. We are over the next 12 months, starting in July, we have more square footage booked at the convention center than we have ever had in any given 12-month period. So there's a great demand to come back. What we don't know yet is what the attendance at those shows will look like. We know it's going to take some amount of time. That's based partially on the industry segment that the show represents. Some industries went through the pandemic very well. Others were hit pretty hard. So there's an economic component that was caused by that health crisis that will have some impact on the attendance at shows. But we have a very bright next 12 months coming, kind of mirrors what you're seeing at the stadium.
While you're at the convention center, why don't you roll right into a subject near and dear to your heart, boring, and mix in the monorail, if you would. And are you ever going to make it all the way out to Mark at Allegiant Stadium?
Yeah, no, I could talk for
hours,
a long time about the boring company. We're excited about that system. We hope if anybody who's watching wants to come over and take a look at it, get a tour, we'd be
You'll
happy
have
to do that.
300 people by Friday. Be careful.
Yeah, that'd be great. In fact, we're doing a capacity test on Friday. We're looking for 350 people. So at the convention center itself, we needed to be able to move people across our campus. And if you walk inside the building, it's about a 1.5 mile walk from one end to the other now, and it takes too long to do that. We looked at a number of different transportation options. The Boring Company system was the clear choice here on the campus. Not only does it have more capacity than anything else we looked at, when it was being constructed, it was completely unnoticeable. When it happens underground, you're not disrupting the rest of the campus. And the cost of it for us was about 1/3 of any of the other options. It also provided an opportunity to prove that the system can work, to show the city what it can mean, and provide some confidence as we move out into the resort corridor. But once we do move into the resort corridor and land use permit applications have been turned in to both the city and the county in order to do that. So we're working through that, working through the franchise agreements. Then we'll start on building permits. We think we can break ground in the resort corridor in a matter of months, hopefully by the end of this year. And that will be, I think, a game changer for Las Vegas. We will connect ultimately to the airport. We will certainly connect with the stadium. If you look at a map of what's been submitted, I think there are 43 stations along that route that will connect all the way from Fremont down through the airport and the stadium. And what's really, I think, two real points that I'll make about the Boring Company and then move on. One is that between the Boring Company paying for the tunnels and the properties themselves paying for the stations, there is no public money that will be spent in this project. So the community will get this transportation system without having to pay anything for it. And then secondly, the system is an express service. So the stations are offset from the main tunnel. Looks like a highway system underground where there's an exit ramp to the stations and then an entrance ramp from the station back into the main tunnel. So it is an express service. So if you get out at Terminal 3 and you're staying at Treasure Island, you're going to go straight from Terminal 3 to Treasure Island without stopping. It's going to be a 5-minute trip. It's going to cost you either $10 for the car, and it's going to allow our visitors in throughout the destination to just experience everything we have to offer much more conveniently in a much more fun way of getting around. We did buy the monorail about 6 months ago, getting ready to open it back up as we head into Memorial Day. And we're excited about that. It typically carries about 5 million people a year. About 1/3 of those are attendees at the convention center. So it's important to the community. It's important to our customers to be able to add that transportation option to the system. We know that there is a limited life to that monorail in the way it operates right now because the trains have to be replaced in about a decade. And that's a $200 million acquisition that frankly does not pencil. So we won't be doing that. We may be looking to repurpose it in some way, but between now and then, it certainly makes sense to operate that system.
So the three of us for sure grew up with the fond memories of Howard Cosell and Dandy Don. So what does Monday Night Football mean so much to an organization? And Steve, what does it mean to Las Vegas as far as marketing goes?
Well, if you look at a list of the top 50 television shows from a viewership standpoint, I think in a typical year, 48 or 49 of those are NFL football. It's a pretty amazing statistic and a pretty amazing list. And the Monday Night Football games are all in the top 25. And just it is free advertising for Las Vegas, and it's about the best advertising you can get. Vegas at this point really is about selling excitement, selling what it means to be both in and around the kind of crowds, the kind of excitement that NFL games and so many other things in this city generate. But to do that on a national stage in such a, historic at this point, it's been nearly 50 years of Monday Night Football. It's just a great opportunity for Las Vegas. And I'll let Mark add his comments as well.
Thanks, Steve. Related to the Boring Company, I think you forgot to say it's also really cool, in addition to all the other things that you mentioned. So congratulations on that. Monday Night Football, like you said, we grew up with it. It's still, if not the marquee game, the one of the marquee games of the week. It's the entire world watching, and this year it's no longer a doubleheader. So in the last few years, they've been doing a Monday night doubleheader to open the season. They've changed that. So Monday night is all ours. It's all Las Vegas. And you'll get the power of ESPN. You'll get the power of all of their vertical and horizontal channels that will be on site and set up in Las Vegas. They already have a presence here, and they're going to really pump this event and pump the opening of the stadium and really present Las Vegas in a favorable light. It also will be simulcast on ABC this year. So you're going to get those eyeballs as well. So you're probably going to get 25, 30 million eyeballs seeing the panoramic shots that Steve is talking about. And if you watched any of the games last year when there were no fans, they still did all those panoramic shots of Las Vegas. And especially when you light it up at night, that's a pretty powerful advertisement. And just go online and see how much it costs to advertise on Monday Night Football and extrapolate that. And like Steve said, honestly, you're getting it for free, but you're getting it for free. And I think it's going to be great. On top of that, the overlap for the room rates for now a Sunday night stay. People are already coming here on Saturday nights. So now they'll extend it to Sunday night to be here for the game Monday, and they'll stay Monday night. So you're really adding 2 incremental room nights, and hopefully you see that in the ADR reflected here in Las Vegas. So, and for the team itself, national games are big. National games are what everybody wants to be on. National games are what people have grown up watching. And so when you're on Thursday Night Football, Sunday Night Football, Monday Night Football, there's an extra layer of attention and an extra layer of importance, and it means something. And I think we had 4 night games on our schedule last year. We have 2 home games this year before any flex scheduling. And I just know Las Vegas will remain on that rotation because of the destination and because of the excitement of being in the sports and entertainment capital of the world. The networks want to come here.
That's great. I read a quote recently from I think he was a president of a resale ticket company. And it said, the Raiders are now the hottest ticket in the NFL. So the question is, do the Raiders high resale ticket values surpass and validate both your predictions of out-of-town attendance? And the simple one-word answer is yes. But what does that mean? Mark, if you can maybe tell us the local tickets versus the visitors.
Sure.
And then, either one of you, and Steve probably on this one, I'm sure people are coming with no ticket and no intention of going to the football game, but coming on those weekends just to be on the Strip.
When we modeled it going back 3-4 years ago, the expectation was 75% local and 25% non-local who would own the PSLs. And then various tourism related revenues were based off of those. Ultimately, we ended up at 60% local and 40% coming from out of town. So for the tourism aspect of it, it's fantastic. It's going to exceed that expectation. We thought it would probably be more 2/3, 1/3, so certainly close enough. And a lot of the ownership is about 25% coming from California, Southern California, where we maintain a pretty strong fan base, as well as Northern California. And then the remaining 15% from the rest of the country. So you combine that with the schedule release and what you've seen online in terms of the secondary market, one issue is the total volume. You can see some of the transactions that have closed versus some of the transactions that are listed but have not yet closed. And we're 10 of the top 11 games on most secondary market sites. So I think the plan is working. People want to come here. Obviously, we're hopeful it's all Raider fans, but we're also not naive. And we know that people from the visiting teams have circled this as their road trip of choice. And they're going to come here for hopefully 3, 4, 5 days and hopefully spend a lot of money in town. And we'll show them a good time at the game and hopefully send them home unhappy afterwards due to the result of the game, but not due to the experience that they have in Las Vegas. But right now, you'd have to say optimistically that the numbers will exceed all of the projections that were made in terms of the incremental room tax that's going to be generated and the incremental revenue that's going to come into Las Vegas for the visitation from other markets.
Dan, when we modeled this, as Mark referenced, we felt that about 42% of attendees at all of the events at the stadium, and we modeled 46 events a year at the stadium, would be tourists, but that only 27% would have come into town because of that event. And that 27%, which translates to about 450,000 people a year, was what all of the justification around investing the basically 7/8% of room tax into the stadium was justified by. We are, I think, going to surpass that number. And when Mark says we get the marketing for a Monday Night Football game or any event, frankly, at the stadium for free, it's because when we modeled the economics for the stadium, we did not include any component in that modeling for the value of the spotlight being put on Las Vegas. We know it's there. It's probably worth more than the economic impact of the 450,000 visitors. But that was not included in that calculation. We really never questioned whether the Raiders would be able to draw. That was, I think, pretty obvious that you combine the Raiders with Vegas, and it's going to be a huge draw, and we're going to be able to fill that stadium. It's the other 30 events after you get past the UNLV and Raiders games. And I think what Mark can attest to now is we're already seeing the draw that, when Garth Brooks has a concert, if he goes on tour, Las Vegas is going to be the place people want to come see Garth Brooks. When CONCACAF has to choose where they're going to have their Gold Cup, they're going to want to choose to be in Vegas because the attendance is going to be more assured than if they have it any other place. And that's why the stadium is going to be such a big part of the recovery of the city, because it provides a definitive date that people, if they want to attend that Ravens game on September 13th this year, or they want to see Garth Brooks in concert on July 10th, they've got to come to Las Vegas on that date in order to be able to do it. And that kind of drive to make people hit yes and reserve that plane ticket and reserve that room and come to Vegas on that specific day is really going to be a critical part of bringing the city back.
That's great. I have a couple NAIOP questions, which is near and dear to our hearts. The first one, Mark, is you're popular. The Raiders are popular. We know where you live personally. We know where Derek Carr lives and Coach Gruden, and maybe where Mark Davis lives. We've had 2 programs this year, one on industrial and one on home building. And it was so much was the influx of Californians to Las Vegas. Granted, you're very popular and the stadium's a big number, but at the end of the day, you led an organization that moved a business with employees to Las Vegas. We love that. How many employees did you bring with you? How many did you add? Was the school system an issue? Just the under level of not people playing football question of moving a business to Las Vegas.
It's a little unsettling that you say you know where I live, but we'll just put that aside.
Generally, they don't let me in those gates.
We moved about 300 people here over a 4-year period. One benefit that we had is we were operating in 2 markets. I call it a benefit. It was obviously a challenge for the organization, but we were able to migrate over a multi-year period. So from a month or 2 after NFL approval to last summer, we probably moved 80% of the non-football operations, with the remaining 20% coming with the football operations last summer. So we moved about 300 people here. We also obviously added a lot of staff, a lot of local staff that were already here, and then relocated some folks with certain specific talents to certain jobs here. When we were looking for a facility, we obviously were looking for as much land as we could get that we really needed, because we wanted to do more than just the practice facility. The Cowboys really started we'll call it an arms race on facilities, and they built what's called the Star at Frisco. And it's a mixed use development on about 90 acres that includes their practice facility, a hospital, a hotel, retail, commercial development. And Minnesota has done a similar project up there with a new facility. Carolina is doing a massive one in South Carolina. So we have about 25 acres left to play with on our campus here. And you've seen a massive amount of development just in this West Henderson area since we announced the move. When we got here, it was the Lion Habitat and a Toronto bakery. And now you're seeing building after building going up out here. And it's remarkable, A, how fast it goes up, and B, what that did to the land values. So the investment that Henderson made was, let's be honest, was a bit controversial. They took some heat for it in terms of what they provided to us. And then we turned around and over delivered in terms of what we spent on this facility and what that will mean for some tax revenues and things of that nature. And also the surrounding land exploded in value. So their return on investment certainly looks like a positive one now. And obviously, like you said, we were looking for where a community would embrace our staff, our players, their families. And like also you said, the move from California, when you talk about the cost of living for somebody living in California, and what it means to own a home there versus own a home here, and all the other ancillary expenses, the quality of life for somebody working for the team went up exponentially in terms of what they can afford, what that meant for perhaps their spouse, perhaps their children, their families. And then we saw a migration of their parents, sisters, brothers, other people that are part of their family also moving here. So the few hundred that we moved will probably be about a 2 to 3x when you add in all of the other families that are going to come along, as well as a lot of Raider alumni that are planning on moving to Vegas to be around the team and be around their Raider family.
That's great. Steve, on the other side of town, the North Strip, your 10 acres, if you want to talk about that, any conversations you've had with Fontainebleau or Majestic, which are undoubtedly coming to whatever they're going to come to because of the convention center opening.
Yeah, we're excited about what's happening on the north end of the Strip and around the convention center. Our maybe more importantly, our customers are excited about that because it really makes a complete district environment around the convention center, which is both great for Las Vegas and great for those individual properties and our customers as well. It really, I think the ultimate key to that is to get the Fontainebleau finished and up and running. Makes a huge difference in the neighborhood. I think that will happen. I know there's been both speculation and just commentary on both sides of that as to whether it makes sense. Seems to me that it should pencil. I think the owners now are committed to making that happen, and we hope to see that moving forward before the end of this year. And that step, I think, will really unlock a lot of the north end of the Strip. Obviously, Resorts World has built a fabulous property. We're excited about the opening in about a month. We've got a great partnership there with them, and it provides a whole new set of opportunities for customers here at the convention center. As it relates to our 10 acres, which is the site of the old Riviera Hotel itself with a fair amount of Strip frontage, we've had a fair amount of conversation about it over even through the pandemic. And hope to be able to announce something relatively soon. You know, you all, everybody on this call knows how that goes until there's somebody signed the document and put some money into escrow. It's not a done deal, but we think we're making some real progress along those lines. And it's a parcel that's got an awful lot of opportunity. It directly connects to the convention center, you know, from a boundary standpoint. It'll be directly across the street from Resorts World, directly across the street from Fontainebleau. And what you can do there, I think, has the ability to bring the entire neighborhood together in that spot. And I think that's what those who have been interested in the property are seeing. In terms of Majestic and the arena project and everything that's going on with Jackie Robinson just down the street, I really have less information on that right now, but great parcels and certainly really convenient for the nearly 2 million people that are going to be at the convention center every year.
As you both know, Scott Sabella was going to join us. He used the "I've got to get my gaming license today" excuse. But we'll have him back, and it's probably almost better he didn't come today. We have so much content with you two, and I can't thank you enough. We have about 8-ish minutes left. On a personal level, sometimes, Mark, I'm worried about out-of-town companies, casinos, New York private equity, anything that may not have the level of commitment, personal commitment to charity in Las Vegas that we've seen throughout our history of Las Vegas. With the Raiders, it seems different. And I'm going to quote Mariana Honeycutt, our very own. You guys seem genuine. I know you're on Opportunity Village. I also know you're not an eye guy. But if you want to speak in a minute or two about the Raiders and Mark Davis and your commitment, real commitment, it appears, to charity in Las Vegas, it'd be great.
I appreciate the compliments. It goes back to Mark's father and mother, Al and Carol Davis. They really instilled that in the entire organization. And you said we're not eye guys. They never took credit for it. So they've always been very philanthropic. They've always done a lot of things behind the scenes. And when we announced the move in March of 17, the first person we moved here was Erin Wright, our VP of Community Relations. And Erin got here and she started to just try and meet everybody. And what we found is a really tight-knit community that takes care of themselves, takes care of each other. And while it may not be have the breadth of some larger markets, the level of generosity here is pretty overwhelming. And you go to some of these events, you see the people who make that cause so personal to themselves, and how much, not just financial support they give it, but how much time they give it, and then how much they bring their network of people into supporting the cause. And what's been eye-opening for us is because of the profile of an NFL team and of the Raiders, just the amplification of these causes when we get involved is so substantial that beyond any financial contribution we might be able to make, just the notoriety that comes along with it lends itself to so much more support for that particular cause. And that's some of the feedback we get from these organizations that we partner with, is that since our association with you, we've seen interest, donations, et cetera, grow so substantially. On top of that, we're going to have the players here now. You got to keep in mind, we moved them here in June of last year. So they went to one charity event and we got fined because they weren't wearing masks. Right, that was their first experience, but they're all really excited to get out in the community. The majority of them have their own foundations and they have their own causes, and you'll see them going around town on their days off. It was historically Tuesdays, but now it can be any day that John decides based on the schedule and who we're playing. But there's one day where they get off per week, and a lot of these guys will spend it going out in the community. So in everything you've seen so far from the organization, from the Davis family, it now get magnified by the entire current Raider roster. And I think that's one of the things I'm most excited. When you said earlier about the unmasking, I probably should have added that, is what that's going to mean for the core of the players. And that's obviously who people want to meet and get to know.
In the last 5 minutes, gentlemen, what does the economic success of the Raiders in Las Vegas, in the eyes of the entire world, really do for for the NBA, for the A's are in the news, but let's say any expansion baseball pro soccer or simply any business looking to move to Las Vegas, what does your success do for that? And that's a both of you question.
Mark.
Certainly the success story of the Knights brought the microscope of the sports world into Las Vegas. And we obviously got caught up in it too. And from an enthusiasm and excitement level, that's when we first were on the ground here. So it justified the decision we made to come here when we saw the local support and how they galvanized around the team. And I'll just give you an anecdotal example from this week. We had another NFL team in town looking at the stadium because they're looking at a stadium project, and their ownership was here and their president was here, and they were here for a couple of days. And they said, we've been in a lot of cities. I've never seen cities support their teams everywhere you go. Everywhere I went, I saw Raiders and Knights merchandise, billboards, people wearing the gear, support, partnerships shown everywhere, and the support and activation behind. He said, I've just never seen that. And he comes from a team that's been around for 100 years and one of the most successful in the league. So that was a nice compliment to hear for all the sports teams here. We obviously know the NBA is looking here. I think that's got a lot of potential here. I really don't want to comment on the A's. I don't think it would really be appropriate for me. We had a challenging relationship with them as co-tenants. It's always hard to share a building, but the relationship we had with them was not a positive one. So I don't think any good can come from me discussing that today. But this market it's just a gem. So when you talk about other businesses and wanting to come here, I already referenced in terms of what this can do for your business and for your employees. The term I always use in a lot of these speaking engagements is it's just a get to yes town. Steve mentioned it earlier. Rather than finding obstacles, they plow through the obstacles and then you move on to the next one. And then they find a solution for that. And that's not the norm for those of us that have been in other municipalities or in other markets, and certainly where we came from, it's the complete opposite. It's a series of obstacles. And then once you get through those, it generates other ones that may have been the end goal all along. So it's just been enlightening and eye-opening. And we share that with pretty much everyone we can talk to. We're on the board of the LVGEA, and we've done a lot of conversations with companies that they're trying to get to move here. And once they get here, they see it. So I think the secret is out. And we just have to manage that growth effectively and properly.
And let me clarify, I'm getting the hook in 5 minutes. We're going to do Q&A for another 15 with you two and our guests. But if you want to add to that, Steve, that would be great to wrap this up with mine.
Yeah, sure. You know, I think it's easy for me, others to kind of assume that, you match a pro sports team with a city like Las Vegas and just assume that, hey, it's going to work. And that's not, I don't think necessarily, I know it's not necessarily the case. It takes the right people in order to make that kind of relationship work and make it work for the entire community as well as the team. We've been really fortunate that Bill Foley and the Knights, and Marc Davis and Marc Badain with the Raiders have come into town and done such a fabulous job of integrating into the community. The reputation that both of those organizations have created have helped with their success and helped with the success of those projects. And that doesn't necessarily have to be the case. But what that has done is drawn the recognition of all the other professional sports leagues out there. I think Major League Soccer will be here at some point. I'm virtually sure the NBA will be here at some point. Baseball is obviously interested as well. And they see the success that the combination of the right ownership of those franchises with the community and the spotlight that Las Vegas brings, the national attention, the national sponsorships, the national suite sales that go along with Las Vegas, it is going to allow Vegas to grow in the professional sports business going forward. And I'll add, and we certainly shouldn't leave out, UFC being headquartered here, the tremendous growth of that organization and the spotlight on that organization, their new partnership with ESPN adds to that as well. So that's we've been really fortunate with those three major franchises, who runs them and how they have just integrated in Vegas.
Thank you both, gentlemen. I can't thank you enough. On to our questions. Mariana.
Good morning. Thank you, Dan, Steve, and Mark. That was great. We have an excellent list of questions. First question here is for Mark. The question was asked and answered about the media value the Raiders provide to Las Vegas. Can you talk about the brand value difference that the Raiders have experienced from the partnership and move to Las Vegas?
Yeah, that's a really an excellent question. We've always considered ourselves a fairly global brand. We've played in the international games. We've got fan bases and fan clubs and database members and merchandise purchasers from all over the world. And that's really a testament to the brand that Mark's father, Al Davis, built over 50 years. Then you combine that with this incredible destination and the marketing power that is Las Vegas, and that amplification is really quite special. The line we used to use when we were trying to sway the NFL in our favor is, you reach an international market in a domestic location, because the NFL is also looking to grow internationally, and we have, I believe, somewhere in the neighborhood of 6 million visitors coming in from international markets. So what this city can do for a brand, for obviously a sports team, for your business, we're seeing it in terms of growth, in terms of interest, in terms of database growth, the level of partners and sponsors that joined on, not just local ones in Allegiant, but some international brands like Coca-Cola and Ford and some others, Twitch, that saw the value of coming into this market and this particular city, this particular stadium, this particular project, and this team. You can see that reflected in some of those partnerships, and then obviously some of the metrics that are a little easier to measure, like database growth and merchandise sales.
Thank you so much. Next question is for Steve. Steve, considering the volume of Raiders fans anticipated to come from Southern California, does a high-speed train from Southern California become more plausible? And is there any plan to integrate the monorail or Boring Company stations into the proposed high-speed rail lines to California?
It's a good question. We do think that high-speed rail to Southern California, and they are, I think it'll work to victory. They're also looking and working on moving that into Rancho Cucamonga, which would be really helpful as well. I mean, the Raiders game certainly help with that, but it takes obviously the other 355 days a year to make it work too. But if you've been on I-15 lately during peak traffic period coming or going back from Southern California, high-speed rail looks like a pretty decent option. It's going to be an important component of making the experience better for everybody, whether they're on the train itself or on I-15 in a car. So yeah, we do think it makes sense. Fortress Investment Group is the equity partner behind this. They've got the horsepower to do it. They're changing that deal structure a little bit. Hope to be back in the bond market by the end of the year, get started on construction. We're excited about that, and certainly have looked at connecting whatever that station location ultimately is here in Las Vegas to the Boring Company system. And frankly, the Boring Company wants to bore tunnels from Las Vegas to LA as well and connect those two cities. When we first presented that proposal to our board, you can look at the bottom of the map. There's a little arrow that says to Los Angeles, and Elon wanted to make sure that was on that map to let everybody know ultimately that is in the plan as well. They are creating a boarding machine right now that we'll probably unveil in about a month when we start the Resorts World connection that launches itself. You don't have to dig a pit to launch the boarding machine. It makes its own ramps, makes the tunnel, comes back out. They think they can get to the point with that machine that they can create a mile of tunnel in about a week, which makes it exceptionally cost efficient and to make these tunnels. And so that's a possibility as well. So we're excited about what can happen along I-15.
Thanks so much for sharing, Steve. That's really exciting to hear. Next question is for Mark. Mark, we have a question from the audience asking to dive in a bit more about the move of the Raiders employees to Las Vegas. Were there any initial concerns or objections, and what were the reasons behind those concerns? And if so, how were those overcome?
I guess I'll just take a stab in terms of some of the issues you may not have known about coming to Vegas and what the lifestyle might be. There were certainly some people that thought, is this going to be the move for me? Is this going to be the right place for me and my family? And it really was just about getting here and getting into town and seeing all of the options that were available. We had a few employees that chose not to move for whatever reasons. Maybe they had deep roots in the Bay Area or came here. We had a couple that came here, and within 6 months, they said, I think this is not for me. And we wished them well, and they went back to California. But I would say 95% of our employee base showed up, came here, and every single one of them is pretty thrilled with the move and what living here really has done for their family and their quality of life. So we did spend a lot of time educating our staff on that. We had a relocation firm that we wanted to make sure the disruptions were minimized for everybody. So the move itself was pretty turnkey. You didn't have to stress about a lot. And we wanted to make sure that they could keep their eye on what they were doing related to the stadium project. And then some of the home base employees in California that were still running the football team, we didn't want them worried about it. And we didn't want the spouses and families worried about it. So we invested a lot of resources and a lot of time. And I would say for the most part, that was a smooth transition for the majority of our employees.
That's great to hear. Sounds like you guys did a good job taking care of your people.
We did.
And final question, in light of time here, I wanted to make sure this question is addressed to both of you, Mark and Steve. In your opinion, where do you see the future of Las Vegas going? Where does the community and the development industry need to focus?
Go ahead, Mark.
From our perspective, what we've heard for 5 years is diversification, and we were obviously a big part of that. And we can see it going up around our building here. So the more this community can attract a variety of businesses in different fields and different industries and bring that level of talent here, that to me seems to be where it's going. I would say one area that we've seen a focus and been involved in is on improving the medical community here and bringing more of that expertise into town. We have a partnership with Intermountain where they're talking about making some large investments in the community here. And so as you see that growth, that's something that I know is a priority for a lot of the government officials that we talk to, and then to other business leaders as they look to evaluate Las Vegas. That's an area where they say, let's put some time, energy, and resources behind the attraction of those businesses as well.
And I could go on a long time about a number of different topics in that question. It's a big question. I'll mention a few things. We've got a foundation in sports and entertainment here that is unmatched, but the opportunity moving forward is unmatched with it. Building on that and building around that, I think, is both an opportunity for the tourism and hospitality industry, but it's also an economic diversification opportunity as well. And Mark touched on some of that, but where there are a lot of different opportunities around what we have here. You think about sports gaming and everything that goes into that, the data generation that goes into that, all of that, everything around that, everything around the development of athletes and athletics and both healthcare, nutrition, and training. We've got some of the world's leading sports franchises here in those areas, and building on that, I think, is a great opportunity. What we are going to face, and I've said this a few times, some of your folks may have heard already, but at the intersection of Tropicana and the Strip, within about 1.25 miles of that intersection, we have 140,000 seats in 6 venues. And we are going to reach a point soon, we hope, where all 6 of those venues are having an event at the same time. And so transportation infrastructure, transportation options, that intersection is also the main intersection between the entire Strip and the airport. So even folks who are not going to the events are going to need to either utilize that intersection or go way around it. So all of those types of, I-15 capacity at McCarran and the ability to continue to seamlessly move our tourists throughout the resort corridor are going to be big topics for the city over the next 10 years.
Fantastic. Well, with that, Dan, Mark, Steve, thank you so much for your time. Dan, I'll pass it off to you. And then I think David's going to wrap up.
Thank you both.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, you guys, thank you so much. This has been a very great discussion. The insight into the negotiation and the complex issues, the confrontational issues, having the same goal and coming out with admiration for each other is definitely a recipe for success in negotiations. So we appreciate you sharing that and all the other stuff. We appreciate Cox Business and their participation and sponsorship in the breakfast meeting. Please take the survey after the program today. And our next breakfast meeting will be June 17th in person at the Orleans. We hope you have a great next month, the next few days, and be safe and be well.